It's easy. But when you look at any situation that happens, if you're able, a mentor once told me, you point the finger outward at somebody, 3 fingers point back at you. You're 1 finger out. Ask yourself 3 times first why you're so comfortable with that. You don't know the color blah, 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 unless you've seen the color blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Blue, you know red because you've seen them. If you see something in somebody else, selfishness, ego, whatever, you know it because you've seen it in you. So you can call that out very easily, right? Yeah. It's a projection one way or another of what you know within you. Mind blown?
Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen. We are so excited now. As you know, this has been years in the making to create this. And the Social Seller is all about not necessarily sales, but being a high-quality human, right? And this new era of sales is happening, right? And it's about buyer-first selling. And it's putting customer first, profit second. Now, I'm so excited. We have a special guest today that's not only a social seller living and taking action aligned with his values, but our main goal is to be very transparent and open and explain vulnerabilities within our story because we are selling ourselves every single day, whether it's a product, service, or it's that job you want to get, or it's trying to convince that girl to go out with you. It doesn't matter. I am so excited now. We have Mr. Reef Colman here for episode number 4. And just to name some of the things that we're going to dive into today, because I'm so excited, and I know you're a busy guy, so it's wild. We're doing our first evening podcast shoot. It's the only time we can get in with you. Now, I'm excited to dive in because as a marketer and have been a marketer for like 7-8 years now, I'm passionate. I look up to some people. Not only have you worked alongside Neil Patel, which any marketer out there, knows at the very top of the game. I would just love to touch the guy, like shake his hand, right? Like that would be wild. And the value he's provided the world. Now, you were the director of marketing for not only Domino's, but Jersey Mike's on a national scale, like national level. I did not even know this until we started this today. We've been friends for going on a year, if not more. So I'm pumped. And not only that, your company, WeAssist.io, is a service that's helped our company out a ton. I'm excited to dive in how you're helping a lot of companies here in San Diego, and I don't think a lot of people know how. And it's going to make a lot more sense today and how much it can help. So let's take it over here. Reef, thank you for being here. Where the hell were you born, and how did you get to San Diego?
Man, thank you for having me, Conor. It's an honor. I want to start just by saying it's an honor to have you here. Just to be here with you. I think you're an incredible human being, and I just love your humanity, so this is fun for me. Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers to you guys.
Yeah, I look up to you, man. I see what you do and like the type of human being that you are, and like a purpose-driven man, and to surround myself with people like you and like Neil and others is what my humanity is all about. So I'm very privileged.
Sit down and just have a parrillada, like a huge barbecue and go, right? So yeah, I think it's 300 square miles is what Uruguay is, and there's a 3 million population, and there's over 9.8 heads of cattle. So it's like 3 to 1 human to cattle. So there's way more cattle than there are humans, right? But we eat our red meat, so that's how we've gotten so big, I guess. I guess coming to America was kind of a story, right? My mom and my dad were big pushers. My dad got in trouble a lot in Uruguay. He actually was chased out of Uruguay essentially because of some things that he did that were very illegal. He had gotten actually involved with some people that stole paintings from France. And at the time, what was a Interpol, which was a worldwide type of organization like the CIA, were after these individuals. And my dad had done some things that were maybe not the best. Something happened with a murder in Brazil that didn't go well, so on and so forth. Somehow he says he wasn't involved with it at all, right? But they somehow got him involved, and he then had to come here to the U.S. And my mom, loving my dad, followed him here, which is I got to meet my dad for the first time after 10 years or 16 years, about 4 years ago. And I started doing this thing where I would record conversations with people. So I put the record on, the voice memo, and I record their story. So I just sat with my dad and drank and then talked to him for 5.5 hours with the recording. And he told me his entire life story. And I don't know how much of it is a farce, right? And blown up, almost like Big Fish, telling a story, and how much of it is real, right? But he seems like for whatever it is, it's a story that is told, right? So that is what it is. So he ended up coming here to the States, and my mom left me with my grandma for the first 5 to 7 years of my life. And my mom, the fighter that she is, got here to the United States, worked 3 jobs, South Central Los Angeles, the concrete jungle, as they say, right? Back then in the 90s, it was very hairy. And she worked 3 jobs, collected cans to make enough money to get us over the border. At that time, if you ran with the Coyotes and you had to get from los Coyotes, as they were, right, to get over the border, it was $10,000 a head. Wow. So my mom got myself, my uncle, and my grandma over. So that alone was $30,000. And the way the story goes is my mom had to get to Guatemala, right? From Guatemala, hopped the first border river there, and then took that river, or took all the way through Mexico. Interesting thing about Mexico is if you get caught, deportation is not like the U.S. You actually get put in jail for 6 months automatically, and then you get deported if you're anything left, right? Because it's a Mexican jail. So you think America's bad, like a Mexican jail is like, here's rice and beans if you're lucky. She got up halfway through Mexico, and my dad, being the gentleman that he is, lost a portion of the money in a bad gambling bet. So my mom ended up having to work X amount of time down there at parties and stuff to make money, just to get the last portion of it to be able to pay us to get across the border. And very interesting experience, right? My mom and my dad both explain it, that going across the border, there's an open gate, you go through the fence hole, you go to a doghouse. Once you enter the doghouse, about 20 to 50 yards from the gate, you stay in the doghouse, a van comes, picks you up, you jump in the van, and they take you to what's called a holding house. And this holding house has like 7 to 10 bedrooms in it, and the bedrooms are compartmentalized by which part of South America you come from. So if you're like Central American, if you're Chilean or Argentinian, Uruguayan, Peruvian, they kind of separate you. And then what they do is they take you to different parts of California and drop you off. But they literally just drop you off, right? Like cold, dead ass. And the Coyotes, like, they'll take your money at the beginning, and then once you get to the gate or at the house, they'll say, now to get out of the house, it's X amount of money. So it's almost like a mini jail. So what they do is, since my mom had already done it once, she stashed her money because she already knew, right? But the first time, they strip you clean. Like, they'll ask you, hey, where's your money? And they'll go through your socks, your everything. Most people try to hide them in their socks thinking they'll get away with it. They pull it out of the socks and then throw you out on the street. So you get to America, not only a place you don't know, new culture, new people, new community, new everything, no connections, but you land here with $0 in your pocket. And it's my mom was an absolute fighter, and my uncle and my grandma, and they've done a lot for me to be here. Yeah, so I'm very appreciative for them.
I love it. When did you come to San Diego? Because that's where we met, right? You live downtown. I live downtown. You live in a sweet penthouse. I do not live in a sweet penthouse yet. What brought you here?
You could. I think you live in a sweet location. I think you give it for the amenities. This place has a beautiful amenity situation. They bring your dry cleaning to you, your car. By the way, the guy downstairs said your dry cleaning will be up, and then they'll detail your car later tonight. So that alone is
Thanks, Matata.
Yeah. That's a shout out to you. Thanks, Mark Tom. I came to San Diego October of last year, or the year prior. So I've been here for maybe a year and 8 months about. Prior to that, I had a short stint here. And that's when I lost like 85% of the revenue to my company and had to go back to LA. That's a hairy story we can get into, because that's a time where I almost ended my life, right? So that was like heavy.
That is immediately what we're going to start with. We're switching it up today, if that's okay with you. And I know we talked before this that you and me have deep conversations, and that's why I wanted to make sure we could come on.
I love your Sapien brain.
And I am excited because I added a new category that's going to take our conversation to a crazy place.
Okay.
And I'll give you 3 options that I know you and me love to break down, and we'll bring that up here in a little bit towards the a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So. Reef, I feel you were about to go down that road. What's been your lowest point in life, like the absolute lowest, right? And how'd you break through?
That's interesting, because I could break it down into 2 categories, right? One is internal battle, right, and the other one would be more of a higher level battle, right? So 2 different juxtapositions in like world, right, and where I come from to where I am now, right? One would be when I was younger, I got a DUI at March 27th, 2007, right? I was pulled over. I had done a bunch of drugs. I had drank a handle of vodka, half a handle of vodka, decided to get in the car, had done some cocaine to sober up. I'd smoked a copious amount of weed at the bonfire, right? I'd finished surfing, jumped in my truck, and decided to do some coke to drive. And there was a checkpoint. I tried to do a U-turn, and in that U-turn, I got pulled off to the side. I got out of the car. The officers made me do a sobriety test. I failed it fucking heroically, right? I was 3 sheets to what have you, right? The thing went the way it went, and I still remember what the officer saying, like, you didn't pass. Like, let's do it again. Let's run it again. You know? And he's just like, no. And I was like, yeah. Let's do it again, you know? Can we get another shot at this? He's like, no, bud. They were cool. They didn't impound my car, which was nice, or my truck, and they left it there. Shortly after that, I got taken to where the checkpoint was at, and the officers wanted me to sign a piece of paper to accept fault, and I wouldn't. And they treated me pretty heavily. Like, the 3 officers came in, one grabbed my hand, the other one, I grabbed the pen. I was like, nope, drop the pen. There's like, we can do this with a fingerprint. We do it the easy way or the hard way. Very cliche cop thing to say, right? Yeah. But I love officers. I love all humanity. It's a very hard job, right? Like, I can't imagine seeing that level of humanity. I don't feel like an officer ever gets a call like, hey, come see my neighbor. They're being really nice. You know, they usually get the shit end of the stick with every scenario, right? So yeah, I took that moment to not give my thumbprint. I stowed away my thumb, and there ensued a situation that got me down to a wet reckless, but also got me into some trouble, right? The officers said I was resisting, and one picked me up, the other one came in, and it took 3 officers to bring me down to the ground, right? And by the 3rd officer, he put a knee right into my back, and they were cranking my wrist. And when they cranked my wrist, they pulled my thumb out, and finally I was like, I've had my thumb out. And the officer goes, okay, and like puts the stamp on it, or the ink, and then when the paper comes up, I shove it back into my hand, and then again, whack, like a knee to the back, and that's when I released my thumb. I was like, okay, and they printed, and luckily for that situation, what ended up happening was I could have blown, God knows what the number was. I refused to blow, right? I said I want to do a DNA test. They kind of knew the process. So they took me to before taking me to the police station, they had to take me to the hospital because that's where they do the DNA test, right? And when I went, they had me inside I said that I had my wrist, I thought it was broken. So I wanted to go to the hospital. So I ended up in the hospital, the emergency room, and they were treating me for the wrist. Between the doctor coming, the nurse was like, hey, everything's fine. I was like, okay. And when they left the room, I went right over to the sink, handcuffed, and I just started pounding water. Because it's a foot thing, right? So you press the foot down to the water. I drank a bunch of water, like guzzled water. And the officer comes across the door and sees me, and he's like, hey, screams. I just, like, I'm looking at him like this, like, and drinking water, and he slams me against the wall, but like inappropriately, like incredibly hard, right? Like just like block, and I dropped down to the ground, and they put me back on the table. And now he handcuffs me to the table. Well, come all said and all, like I ended up with the DNA test or with the blood test being a .09, which is like .08, like above that is like DUI, right? But for how much I had drank, should have been far beyond that. So like I drew out the whole process like 4.5 hours. Plus I drank a bunch of water. So like I ended up getting a wet reckless instead of a DUI, and almost had the case dismissed. But I wasn't able to get the case dismissed. But yeah, that was a situation that took me down a path. Went to anger management for a year. Went to NA, Narcotics Anonymous. Went to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And then I went through a journey of 7 years sobriety, right, or 6 years sobriety. But the most important part of that was the intrinsic, like, internal battle, right? Recognizing that the alcohol, the drugs, the selling of the drugs, like the party scenes, needing the affirmation was really just a reflection of what I was missing inside. There was a hurt, there was a brokenness that I had not settled, and I used coping mechanisms at the time that helped me through that, right? Self-medicated and self-dosed, as most wild entrepreneurs are, right? They have something going on internal. Like there's something heavy inside of us as entrepreneurs that's like yearning, that fights, that we like. It's a heaviness that maybe other people don't have to experience or be plagued with, but also benefited with, right? Like it's kind of like double-edged sword. So So that took me through a large internal battle, and that was a long stint of sobriety. So that kind of started shaping me in a way.
What age were you when you started sobriety? And you said 6 or 7 years?
21.
21?
Yeah.
That's a good year to
so
start.
right when everybody was getting into partying, I'd been partying since I was like 14, 17, right? So like my
The year 14, 17?
Yeah, no, I was like 14 when I first smoked weed and when I first started drinking and
Just a party
cigarettes.
animal.
And then 17 is when it got really heavy. Like I was considered like a street pharmacist, right? I had my truck panels fell apart everywhere. I could fill it up with drugs. I did runs to pick up heavy amounts of narcotics. This is all like I'm gonna be as authentic as I can here.
I love it, man.
Like, this is my past. This is my history, right? Who I am and what I am.
Yeah.
So. I was able to evade, like, I got very lucky for a very long time. And I think if I was born into a different system, I might have been an entrepreneur from an early age or known like financial literacy or understood, but those are not things that you have in a household that's first to America, understanding and figuring it out. And when you're left in the driver's seat of, you need to figure this out because there's no money to pull from. Then you start to figure out things, right? Like I used to go to raves and I would buy glow sticks and finger lights and pacifiers for $6 a dozen, and I would sell them for $20 a pop. So I would walk to EDC, I'd fill up my backpack, and I would walk selling $20 pacifiers for 50-cent pacifiers. Like the margins were absurd.
Good margins, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
margins.
very, very nice margins.
You're putting in the physical labor work too at a festival, right?
100%. So I'm going up and down. Other kids are partying, and I'm like 22 at the time, and everyone else is raging and out of control. And I stopped selling drugs. So I was like, how do I do a sober way of hustle? And I worked at Olive Garden. I would pay my manager $200 every time I would go because we couldn't get weekends off. So I would pay him cash. And everybody would have a fit with me. Like they even took it up to the director of the region. They're like, "Hey, Reef gets Saturdays off. What's going on?" I was like, "Hey, religious reasons, right?" Like, I made up whatever I had to, not like Seventh Day Adventist, like I can't those days. Whatever I had to do to go hustle, right? And I would pay the manager cash, and he would let me take the weekends off, and I'd go work. But on those weekends, I'd net $3,000 to $8,000, right? So I'd like make a bunch of fucking money. So it was, to me, $200 was a nominal fee to pay somebody. At one point, I had to get a security person or a friend to sit at the truck with like a box to put money into, and I had to wear soccer socks because my pockets would fill up with 1s and 5s and 20s so heavily that I would have to start stuffing my soccer socks all the way up. So I'd go into a porta potty because it was closer than the parking, right? I'd take the money out of my pockets, put it in my soccer socks, and then continue walking around. And the reason I did that was because walking to the truck and back took away 15 to 25 minutes, right, on the walk there and back. So it made more sense for me to try to maximize my productivity and my output by just like, it was everybody in line would grab them, right? Because inside they were $30 to $40, and I was selling them for half the price. So that, I did that for a while. But with that, like at the households from Uruguay, you don't talk about financial. The conversations of, well, this stock is doing this. Or like, I've sat at other tables with other families where they're talking about financials and they're talking about their business and they're talking about deals.
That was never at our conversations.
You neither.
If we had a family dinner, never in any conversation.
Really?
Oh, I don't think once.
What did your parents do?
My dad is a farmer, right? My grandpa's a farmer.
No way.
My uncle's a farmer. My dad's a farmer. I'm the oldest son. I had the option and kind of hinted at you kind of have a place after high school, right?
Yeah.
And decided not to. Mom, in education, so she's been a para-ed for a long time, and she just loves people, loves to help, loves to give. So
I can see that.
It didn't come up naturally, right?
Yeah.
When I see the crypto opportunities happening over the past, 3 to 6 months, and obviously way prior, right?
Yeah.
Friends that were telling us in college, invest in this. I know you don't have to believe it, but like I promise one day it's going to make sense. Yeah. And now it's today. And trying to convince my dad to get into some of these, any kind of investment. Crypto, that's far-fetched, right? He's what the hell? I don't want to throw my... Anyway, very old school. He raised me very similarly to probably how he was raised on the farm. And so it was discipline. I'm grateful for it. I'm happy that...
You are a very disciplined man, dude. The way you get up in that... it's amazing to watch you.
The truth is behind discipline and why... There's a lot of reasons why I like to wake up early. And living in San Diego, we're the farthest south in Southern California, right? Like if I didn't geographically know where San Diego was located when I first moved out here. We got in the car, packed it 22 hours later, and we're like within an hour, and I'm mind blown I'm like, we took the wrong turn. You know, we're literally 100 feet from the border going horizontally with it. And coming from Iowa, you only hear what happens down by the border, like on the news. And then what my dad's feeding me, right? Information's like, oh, you don't want to be down there. Take one wrong turn, Conor, they'll shoot your car up. And so in my mind, obviously I know this shit's not going to happen. I'm still on the U.S. side of the border. And
but you're scared shitless. Like,
so I'm like, we took a wrong turn. I think I'm an hour out. And long story short, that is just to give you context. We are in the farthest southwest corner of the country, right? We are touching Mexico for the most part. We can, we can hop in your car and be in Mexico in 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I forget why we were going.
Talking about financial literacy and like talking about that at a table with the family.
Oh yeah. Well, long story short, did not come up in conversation. If so, it was probably at friends' homes or some of my aunts and uncles that might have been more common.
I can't believe you just drove out here without even knowing where San Diego's at.
Yeah, I mean, you had an idea. So I had been here in junior high. So a truth that I haven't told is that I was a huge, and I still am, but I'm a huge science geek. Growing up, I was in chess club when chess wasn't cool.
Let's play chess.
Well, I mean, it was to me. I don't even know. If I read like a Goosebumps chapter book in first grade that was like, I think you should join. And then in junior high, really fortunate to have a certain teacher that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I was only getting in trouble K through 12, right?
Oh, no.
Not just like little trouble, right? Like what most people hear are like, oh yeah, I got in trouble too, right? No, I'm talking at least one in school or one out of school suspension every single year.
Whoa.
I can legitimately trace it back to kindergarten. And that's the wild part. And if you don't think so, kindergarten, I can remember the names, but I'm not going to put them there. And I remember who I was with and how we planned a pretty smart little move that ended up hurting someone. When you're in kindergarten, do you think that's ever happened before? I mean, I don't know if they call it an out-of-school suspension, but they're like, come pick your kid up. And so my dad's punishment was sit on a table like this. This was in the middle of our kitchen, right? It was like, whatever, this size. And from when he picked me up at 9 a.m. or 9:30, right? Wasn't even in school that long. We had this planned. And he picks me up, and he is just so pissed. I think kindergarten, first time actually getting in this kind of trouble. So he's like, maybe he doesn't take after me. Maybe it's just this one-off. And my punishment was to keep my forehead on the table. My forehead could not come up from the table, and he kept me there for so long. So I don't know if that was I don't know how long he kept me there in kindergarten, right? Yeah. And it was a good punishment, right? I've always had ADHD, so I'd figure out different ways to have fun, right? When we start talking about archetypes of entrepreneurs and substance abuse and just having addictive personality traits, I see it's more and more evident. Even though on the face value side of like you can look up to someone, you're like, oh, they have it all together. Yeah. Realistically, they're going through a lot of shit too. If you can operate at a certain level, there's other areas that probably aren't as stable that those people are thinking about. They're trying not to usually.
Oh, couldn't agree with you more. That's when you're like, when you get to a certain echelon, there's a certain level of layers of your cake, right? That like, I consider people's lives like a layer of a cake, and every layer, some are bitter, some are sweet, so on and so forth, right? But those layers are what translate and make like your reality, right? Like the flavor of your life. And I consider like mine, for example, and like others, like, and I'm hearing your story now, I used to get in trouble all the time. I was never a good kid in school. Like my life was hectic in school. So very similar, right? ADHD, I got put in like ESL, what are the special classes called? ESL is English second language, and the other one is like special classes essentially.
Yeah, that's what they were always called in my school.
Yeah, you're
in special classes.
You can't take the test in the right time, and you're like, okay, like as long as I get an extra hour, cool. And I would just like dick off, like I just go in there and have a blast, right? First off, it took me like 30 minutes to get there, so I would just like through the hallways, and then when I got there, like, oh, fine, I'll take the test now, or like a proctor would get you and pull you in. But I was an absolute mess. Like I passed high school just by literally talking to the teachers and talking my way through a program that was like a special program, right? It was like it was called, I'm so sorry, Miss Bishop and Miss Spay. When you guys hear this, they had a special medical academy that they were trying to get off the ground that was like block scheduling. Thank you, brother. And the block scheduling, bring one of those puff bars too. I don't give a fuck. I did it alone. No,
it's all good.
All right, yeah. So the Miss Spay and Miss Bishop, I apologize, but it was essentially like a special academy that they were trying to do block scheduling and get this off the ground. And it was a medical academy to go, getting a fast track to medical schools, right? Well, I saw the opportunity and I was like, boom, I'm going into this thing. They wanted it to work so much, so they needed good test scores. So they needed to have good students in it. Well, I would weigh down the numbers, and I knew that, so I gamed the system. So I knew from the get-go, I was like, oh, you guys are trying so hard because you need this to win. Cool. Didn't do any work, didn't do any schoolwork, like didn't turn any homework in. But I would take great. Testing. I was very good at. I could just test really well. Like it's just common sense, kind of almost, you know. Like, or you could look at something or.
I
read
wasn't
through
that
chapter.
way. So
You
for
weren't?
anyone else, hopefully, there's other people like that. I always looked at people like you, and I was like, how? The business partner, Chris, right?
Mm-hmm.
In college,
Also, yeah.
I would study for, I'll just give an example. It's like I study 8 hours for this big midterm or a final, right? He wouldn't study, still go in with a better score.
Yeah.
Like, just things come very easy to him like that. I felt like I always had to work a lot harder to do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, my focus hasn't been there. So that's something I know I can work on. But again, why I'm disciplined and routine to some degree, I look up at people that are way more disciplined, right?
So do I. Yeah.
But it's to cope with other areas of my life, right?
Correct.
So that's what I'm starting to realize in successful people. They have awesome routines, but a lot of time, I mean, for the simple fact that a routine that works for you, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's waking up at 4:15 a.m. every morning and then going straight to the gym, right? I could test that out, and maybe it doesn't make me feel the best. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe 9 a.m. hits, and I'm like, shit, I'm ready for a nap. Normally, this would be 1, and I could take a quick nap.
Yeah.
You know? So, anyway, I don't want to go too far off, but I do want to switch it here. I know this is out of right field. Who's been the biggest role model in your life, right? Like, you talk about growing up in South America, your dad stealing paintings, which is, first off, I just think Ocean's 11 is such a sweet movie. Like, I think of something like that.
Yeah.
And then coming to the States through Mexico, having a coyote and explaining the process, holy shit.
Yeah.
And making it here with no money,
Sure,
and then working your ass off, and your mother sounds like an angel.
She's a beast.
Yes, a beast that kept the family together and worked
100%.
like her ass off, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure your dad did too. Now, who has been, whether it's parents, role models, your neighbor, who has been the biggest role model in your life, and what was the hardest advice they ever gave you?
That's a great question. Can I start by saying that I think you're still a farmer, but I think that you're a farmer in a different way, and I think you seed great possibilities in other people, because I think that you are a farmer. You just plant other plants in people. Like, you plant in me someone that wants to wake up early, someone that wants to be disciplined. I see your energy or the way that you've gone through an internal journey, and that inspires me. So you plant different types of seeds. Like, I just want to edificate you in that, because I view you and I see, wow, Conor, what an example of a male figure, what an example of a sapien, phenomenal, right? Tries to be more level, tries to be more emotionally intelligent, does everything in his power, uses his brain as a tool to be able to figure out how his brain functions. It's absolutely beautiful, magnificent. If more people operated in that kind of a framework, we'd have a much better society. So I appreciate you. Now you plant different types of seeds. So I think you're still a farmer.
And that's why this podcast came around, right? People had asked for a long time, this is all about having open conversations. Every conversation is going to look vastly different, but through these conversations and going vulnerable and maybe going into sales, but maybe just talking about life, I think it can provide a lot of value, right? Through storytelling.
Yeah. But I think to what you said earlier, the brokenness in people, sales, success is a different metric for all people, right? And I think sales in today's economy has changed drastically, right? So sales, what it used to be before of the go-getter, the madman type mentality, to the Wolf on Wall Street, right? To the 2000s when they started doing digital, they would give you a bunch of data and hope that you would answer the best because they gave you a bunch of data, found out that people were overwhelmed by too much data, and they hated it, and they needed a 1 to 2 to 3 different selections just to choose, because the sapient brain wants to be told what to do by the right person, right? Then now to what's a consumer economy where we can jump on Google and find the answer before the car dealership guy knows, right? You walk on the lot and you're like, is this 4x4? He's like, I don't know, Bob. I have no idea. And you're like, yeah, but it says right here on the Carfax report that it's 4x4. Ha! I started last week, and truth is he's been there for 2 years and still has no fucking idea what he's doing. It's just that the economy has changed, right? It's in such a way that now we're catering to people and really helping them, guide them to what is their true best solution. And in that in that openness is where true success is, right? Because you care about the other person.
I love that.
And you're making a better reality. But I think your question, sorry to get off ADHD, we both have ADHD.
Hey, I'm glad you brought it back full circle.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you wanted to close that off, right?
Oh, no, I love it. I love it. You brought it full circle.
Put a bow on that.
Biggest role model.
One of the biggest role models. Yeah,
Yes.
one of the biggest role models, I'd say. I think that to say that there's a singular role model.
That's all
is
I'm asking for.
a
this
fallacy, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I know we can take it to the fallacy route. I'm just saying, just one. Who comes to mind? Like that gut instinct right off the bat.
For different, there's different seasons though.
Who
like, that's kinda
overall,
heavy.
personal, professional, like overall has probably.
Okay, personal and professional, good, right? I think there's like seasons of life, and you have different role models for each season. I would say for a personal, someone that I looked up to heavily was my uncle, like an absolute scholar of a man, right? He raised me as a child. He was there for me, right? Like he helped me when my dad left. He stepped in, right, until my aunt like had a tiff with my mom, and then she like divided the family a bit because my Spanish culture is very proud, right? So they're like like a lot of posturing in a stupid way, like a bunch of roosters puffing up their chest, fucking fighting over a grain when there's like a silo behind them. It's fucking ridiculous. So yeah, my uncle had to step away, but for the most part, my uncle has really showed me what a man is like, right? He broke his back working at Sparklets, no degree, right? In Uruguay, he created a company cleaning restaurants at night. Where most of my family didn't do anything. He saw that my mom or my grandma suffered, so he started cleaning restaurants after hours. So when 10 o'clock closed, he'd go in and clean a bunch of restaurants and started getting so many people that he had to hire people. And he says one of the stories that I love that he told me was the day that I took our grandma, right, his mom, to the grocery store and said, buy whatever you want, and we ate actual meat and ate well for one of the first times in our like family, like 9 children, sitting down, was a moment for him that he still holds to this day. That one instance, right? So that's the kind of man that he is. Came here and worked at Sparklets. They broke his back at Sparklets, like literally, like carrying the jugs. The manual labor was just too much, and they would break your back, and then afterwards they'd put you on disability, and you were done, right? So it was a very heavy life that he's lived, but he did it for us, for all of us to be better. And he did it for his family, and he put the family first, and he put his body in the way. Like if you're talking about a person that takes a bullet for you, he put his body before us. He put his body through torture. He got up every day. He worked in the rain. He worked in hot sun. He just did, right? And that discipline to me was like something I've always looked at and admired. And the family man that he is, he's a great family man. So he's a true replica. My father's the example of what a male shouldn't be. So thank you for that. Right? That's a gift. I have to take the positives from everything. So thank you for giving me that knowledge. And my uncle is an example of the type of man you should strive to be, right? So those are the two father figures that I've really lived in my reality at a young age. Another very influential person, Larry Blair, who's Ian's dad. Ian's dad shifted how I view the world in a lot of ways, right?
Who's Ian again?
Ian is the CEO of Build Fire, like one of my brothers. Yeah, I love him to death. Austin and Ian are like the absolute family to me. Larry Blair, I look up to and admire for his story, where he comes from. He comes from northern New York, had nothing, right? Very similar to my grandma's lifestyle, like one home, like very run down, has created an incredible reality for him and his family. So him I look up to now in my current state of like a man that I want to be like, right? Centered, calm, like well-mannered, well-nurtured, raised amazing children. Like it's just a continual learning brain that continues, very similar to Bill Gates. Love the guy. I'd say another, like now that's on the business, that kind of is like a segue into the business side, right?
Uncle is personal, I feel like.
Uncle is personal,
Uncle
correct.
Personal, and then
Blair, and then Larry is like that in between personal and business that segued me into business. And I would say that Alvaro Garcia early on was a huge influence for me, and he does about $4.2 million a month, one of the largest franchisees in the U.S. He was the first guy. I got fired from Jersey Mike's twice for creating that campaign that I shouldn't have, like fundraising, and I just couldn't get along well with like the directors. The directors couldn't deal with me, and Alvaro was like, "Why can't nobody deal with you?" Right? And then finally was like, work directly under me because he saw something in me. Right? He's the one that really showed me that I am an entrepreneur and I have a mind that other people don't. Right? He taught me the values of like work at the wage that you want to work at, not the wage that you're working at. Right? People expect to get paid $10.
You want to say that again?
Yeah, work at the wage that you want to be paid at, not at the wage that you are at. I think the conception for a lot of people is, I'm getting paid $10 an hour. Well, I'm gonna work harder when I get $15 an hour. Nobody rewards you for just being a mediocre sack of shit, right? No one cares about you. Like, give value, right? And he also instilled in me, if you want to get paid more, think like an owner, be an owner from the get-go. I wasn't very liked in Jersey Mike's when I worked there, right? Because everyone was like, oh, he's a goody two-shoes. It's like, I wasn't a goody two-shoes. I just had a very high level for myself. I was like, I want to be the fucking best. Like, I want to be better than all the rest, right? And that's what allowed me to meet Peter Cancro, like the CEO and founder, like really get to understand and know like the highest players, right? Talk to mayors, like principalities. Like, it was beautiful. Like, I was very, very fortunate. But Alvaro really pushed me into that role. One of the things that stands out to me most about Alvaro is like, hey, look, you can either make results or make excuses. You fucking choose. But don't come at me with your fucking excuses. Anything outside of the result is a fucking excuse. And he would just tell me that all the time. So I never came to him with like a problem. I came with him with solutions, and he taught me and trained my brain to come to him with solutions. So he was an absolute
That's such a good statement. I mean, it's so true. And the hardest part for me is like, I used to make, I mean, and still today I'll catch myself, make really good excuses. Good excuses, right? Yeah. Like, that got me through college, right? And then I started learning about psychology. And when you read Cialdini's Influence, you know, that's a book. If you love psychology, business, and communication, and you just want an entertaining book, read Robert Cialdini's Influence. I've read that 2 or 3 times. Just very interesting. But us humans, we like to think we're so different.
Send me the
link. We kind of are. But in reality, we all behave very, very similar in very similar ways. So anyway, yeah, I'll send you Cialdini.
That grandiose, like the ego is such an interesting thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the point that I wanted to make, though, is like, making excuses is easy. And I think that's what 95% of the world's population is doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's the primary viewpoint, right?
Yes.
And there's another good book, Extreme Leadership. That changed my mindset. The second, you know, in Coronado Island, we're looking at it, right? Like, it's right on the other side of the water. That's Coronado. And you'll see red lights whenever they come through in the middle of the water. It's Navy SEALs training throughout the night, right? Because that's the world-renowned training facility for Hell Week.
Goggins.
Like, obvious, I mean, those are men. They're the men of the men, right? Like, they are mentally breaking you, physically breaking you. To me, I look at them and I'm like, crazy engineering, like you
mental
and me.
Fortitude of your...
Yeah. When you read Extreme Leadership, Extreme Ownership, you realize, regardless of who you are, I think, like you had mentioned, right? Being an owner, regardless of if you're a cashier, which I did that for a long time, right? Or you're a janitor, or it's whatever. Look at it and behave and communicate with every single person you come in contact with. Coworkers, right? Whether they're above you, below you.
Couldn't agree more.
Any random person, whether they're a customer or not in your store, they're in the hallway. Still just a subtle, like, hey, happy Thursday, right? Happy Wednesday, whatever. And that can help so much. But I've noticed that my life has gotten exceptionally better. And I don't want to call it success because I'm nowhere close to success. But my happiness and congruency in life, and where I really just, I don't even know how to put into words, feeling like I'm really close to finding that authentic Conor.
I love that.
And it's a journey, right? Your whole life. And when you do that, and for me, it was stop making excuses.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it, right? Within business, within life, a lot of it, I would say the majority was within my own mind, right? And then what helped me a ton was starting to surround myself with friends that were a lot more disciplined, that worked really hard, and to some degree, a lot of them are younger. And again, read psychology, and you can learn how to life hack. You can learn, like, there's biohacking. Surround yourself with the people you want to be like. Like, I will, there's certain times that I'll purposely go out of my way to hang out with younger friends because I know they're just going to give me energy and we're going to do fun shit, like random shit. And then there's times where I want to have a conversation, you know, maybe like this, and it's like, oh, I'm so excited. We're about to have the wild card play, and we're going to start doing this every episode here in a second. All right, I want to keep moving forward because I have a couple questions.
Can I have one more?
Yeah, bring it up. Yeah.
So I'd have to, this is like a portion that I have to talk about. Ian Blair is a phenomenal person in my life. I would say that transition between personal to business career, Ian Blair has been that person for me, and he's younger than me. But he's Larry Blair's son, and absolutely changed radically my reality. I remember 2 years into knowing him, like, we lived at the same house. We lived in the Mystery Mansion. It was like 14 guys living in one mansion in Azusa, like $250 rent, right? And I was still paying my mom for her mortgage and helping her with rent at home. I didn't have that, like, scholarship or anything. I worked 4 jobs in 16 units, so I was doing everything I could when Alvaro found me, right? So it was a lot of work, right? Four full like core classes plus on top of that, which was 16 units, and then on top of that 4 jobs. I was like restaurant, working at a church, like it was nonstop for me, right? I got to know Ian, and just like him and I got very close. We were good friends, and one day I remember he invited me over to his house, and I had no idea who or what he was, right? And we walk into this Emerald Bay $28.5 million home, like one of the nicest areas in Laguna, right? And the OC built into the side of a cliff, grand stairway coming down with a piano, and then like a beautiful balcony and opening. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? You know? He's like, oh, I didn't tell you, but this is like my reality, right? And then it like dawned on me. He's like, the reason why I like you is because you treat me as me and you don't treat me for my money, right? Because a lot of people like fake that to, like, I guess like there's different levels of pain in life, right? When you get to a certain echelon, like it's a lonely road because the more you read, right, the dumber you sound to regular people. So you start to read more and you understand more. And it's kind of that like dichotomy of, do you wish you were a farmer, right, in the middle of Nebraska or wherever, or like Iowa and like or Idaho and like or Illinois, and you only knew baseball? Go to church every Sunday, find your wife, that's it. Like, you don't, like, your
Work
life
hard,
is...
treat people well, yeah.
Right, your life is simple, but, like complexities are, like, very
it's
minuscule.
simplistic in some ways.
In some.
One lens, yeah.
Right. There's complexities in others, right? But they're, like, in that one, like, very simple, like, floor plan or, like, framework.
Yep.
When you open your mind to more knowledge and understanding, you're like, holy cow, the world is a very complex place. It's almost like the more you know sometimes, oh, what is it to a sapien, right? How do you handle that information? So with Ian getting to know, like, what that was, he opened my eyes for the first time to what another reality was like. I'd never been in a scenario like that. Uruguay kid, South America, like in and out of school, bad. Rosemead, San Gabriel, bad. Almost in a gang, bad. Temple City, bad. Like Arcadia, very affluent school. A lot of Asian kids could never keep up with the GPA, bad. Like getting arrested, drugs, bad. Like going surfing, having mentors speak to me, and like speaking to my mind and sit down and be like, dude, you're a fuck up, you know, like bad. To like getting to that place and point, your reality is only your perception and what you see, right? And to see that for the first time, to me, was like, what is my reality?
Yeah.
And then his frameworks he started building into me, and his frameworks have helped me go from who I was then to where I am now. I used to have long hair, worked at a restaurant, didn't give a fuck, you know, long hair, didn't care. Like, it was ass, gas, or grass for me, right? Like, I was either gonna smoke weed, we're gonna fuck, or I was gonna get money somehow, right? It was just, no, it was just like the existence that I knew, right? The people that I was around, to the community.
Yeah.
Ian completely changed that community for me. And I'm a strong believer, like you said, that your surrounding people create your reality. And I do go out of my way to find those people. Yeah. Like, I go out of my way to find Neil Patel and talk to him because I love his fucking brain. Yeah. I love the way he operates, the way he articulates the world. Listening to Elon Musk, the way that he captures data and then articulates the data, or the way that he sees the world. It's a different lens. And to be able to capture that lens or talk to those people and see the way that they articulate, or the way that they view data, or the way that they move across the world is a fucking gift, right? Like just the way that you operate is very different from the regular population. That's a fucking gift, right? To be able to like step into your brain, your psyche, and hear like your day-to-day. How many people wouldn't wish to figure out what your like choices and floor plan and framework are for the day? It's like, how do you get to success? Well, choices, small choices every day. Okay, what are your choices daily? Ba, 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 ba. And I'm fortunate enough to understand that and get that and talk to you like just sapien to sapien. Be like, hey, I get up at 4:15. I go to the gym. By like 6 a.m., I've had a full fucking day when everybody else is like just scratching their ass in bed, right? Like you've already had your day. Like it's magical. So yeah, I'm a big believer in like that you said, just being around great people. Conversations are better. Like the humanity is better, right? You just get to see different ways of articulating the world. Instead of being a piece in the cog and moving, you're directing the machine, and you have the biggest responsibility on your shoulders to make the world a better place. Then you have to own that responsibility, right? Where most people are just existing. They're like getting by day to day, counting their hours backwards on their clock. Age 75 or 80, you get 700,000 hours of life. If you got paid $1 for every hour you were alive, you wouldn't have enough to buy a fucking home in California. You know, like it just is crazy, right? So to be one of those people that can be an architect to our future generations, I take great responsibility in that, and I hope to have more responsibility to make a better change. And by doing that, surrounding myself with better people, better ecosystems, and being that voice, right? And it's like, yeah, that's me personally. But yeah,
I love that, and I do want to unpack one part.
Sure.
You had mentioned, you know, Ian, we're a reflection of our environment, right? And to me, it's really helped a ton. right? And regardless of what your behavior is, or when you start to find awareness in life, you start to see like, oh, these are my strengths. To me, that was the first part of the journey. It was like, oh, do you strength finder? And I started falling in love with assessments because it was an unbiased way of trying to gauge myself.
Yeah.
And then that started the rabbit hole. And then I was like, well, what are my weaknesses? Okay, some people said don't focus at all on your weaknesses, only focus on your strengths. But I want to have an awareness for what they are so I can accommodate, right? Whether it's in business, I need to hire those people. Yeah. Our team needs to hire those people. Or in the personal life, it's like I need to put extra attention into this area, right? If there's going to be balance. And you also mentioned that with Ian, he grew up in an interesting lifestyle that a lot of us would look up to. And from the outside looking in, you could go, that's got to be the perfect way to be raised and to be brought up. And I'm sure if you talk to him, he'd probably give you the reality check of like, hey, we have the same exact problems you do. Like,
oh my
and,
God.
and there might even be more, right? Because with money, the same problems you have personally, mentally, physically, spiritually, money just magnifies it from what every successful person has told me in every book, it really does. So it's like, work on yourself now is my belief. Live that good life, start living the future life, right? Yeah. And then that's where we get into some weird biohacking, visualization, Joe Dispenza, feeling the feeling of your future success, because our brain can't tell the difference between the now and the future state when you're in a present moment, right?
Right. Beautifully said.
Yes. Well, anyway, this is a passionate part. Now, I'm going to take it a weird way, right? And I'm not sure how my mind works like this. Yeah. But one quick sticking point that helped me out a ton. If you're an extrovert, and I always like connecting. You and me love to connect with high-quality people. We like social people, and we want to be around people that align with our values. And that's why, you throw awesome events all the time, and, like, you bring quality people together, and that's what I love, because it's like I know I'm never going to be intimidated or like you just go there and there's so much love around. And what I wanted to take it was, okay, so you said Ian loved it because you treated him normal, right? And maybe he wasn't used to it. Celebrities feel like that. Athletes feel like that. Sure. New York Times authors feel like that. The person that's, I'm sure there's a couple cool people in this building that I don't know, and I'm sure they're just cool. But when you meet them, treating them like a normal human is sometimes hard to do, right? If you know who they are. If you saw LeBron James, you're going to freak out, right? Yeah. I learned something through trial and error when I was living in Chicago downtown. We were in this, we called it the club triangle, right? So the three biggest clubs at the time are the Bermuda Triangle, depending on who you're asking.
I get lost.
And it was in River North. And at the time, there were these three big clubs. And one night we were in Underground. And it's probably like a Wednesday or Thursday night. You know what? We'll go with Tuesday, because that way it was like, I remember at this time, Drake dropped Tuesday, like club going up on a Tuesday, and he dropped it on a Tuesday, and everyone went nuts. So every Tuesday, you only heard this song for a good year or two. And there were a handful of guys from the Chicago Bulls, right? Yeah. And Jakeem Noah was there. And I don't know that much about NBA. I played a lot of baseball and a lot of football growing up, and some golf. And I saw him. He's a very unique-looking individual. And, I mean, anyone in the NBA is, like,
huge.
Just, we're talking 8.5 feet, right? Like, if you're 7 foot, you're like the shortest guy in the court. No. And I saw him over there. And I'd always been thinking, like, how, because a couple weeks prior, so this was probably one of the first experiences. And for whatever reason, I felt like this need. I probably had a few drinks in me too, but I was like, I didn't care about women. And that's like literally how a lot of times it is when I'm around people where I'm like, oh my God, there's so much opportunity. Yeah. Like, just personally.
100%.
There's so many stories I can learn about. And if you're naturally curious, it's like, anyone could really just... Like,
I'm more about the brain, 100%.
Yeah, and the potential friendships, right? The unknown, 100%. The beauty of the unknown, like Joe Dispenza would say, right?
Correct.
Getting that excitement for the unknown beauties that are going to unfold.
Yeah.
Well, the trick is you... I didn't know this in the moment. This is through trial and error, and this is the one time it worked. So I just go up to him, and he's sitting over there in VIP, right? Yeah. And I could get, like, within 2 feet, right? Because I wasn't VIP, and it's a Wednesday night or Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So I just go over and real casually, like my whole body language changes. In my mind, I'm like, I know Jakeem and he knows me. We've been boys for 5 years. And I go up to him and I just tap, just like if I was talking to a buddy that was doing it, was like, it was just literally, it wasn't like, hey, hello, or subtle. I didn't even say anything. I just tapped him twice. He looks over, I was like, what's up, Noah? Good to see you again, brother. Yeah, when'd you get in? Nice. And he goes, yo, what's up, man? Good to see you again. And it hit me.
My God.
These people meet hundreds of people,
many people.
thousands of people. By simply giving him every authentic version of how he wanted to be treated, I was treated that way. I was then let into the velvet ropes. Nothing cool ever came out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, who knows if he ever gave me his real number. And a couple weeks later, I tested it again. Sammy Adams came to another club. At the time, I was like, I was still in college. This was a summer internship. I had four unpaid internships, and I'm living in the club triangle where you only spend money. Oh, gosh. Well, Sammy comes, and I'm so pumped, right? And
Sammy, I like how you call him on a first name basis. Oh, Sammy.
yeah. Well, then at that point, you don't call him what everyone else would. Like, my mind goes, I'm going to call you Sam. Like, yo, Sam. I don't know. Well, he comes in, and I time it, right? And I time it because I was like, I just want to at least talk to him. In this weird way, I have this feeling, this belief, and I've had it since a young age, and it could be vastly wrong, but just because I believe it, I think it kind of works once in a while, that I look at myself and I go, if I had a conversation with that person, I can almost guarantee they're going to like me. Maybe a lot of people get that too.
That's a good way to start that's a great premise to have in your brain. That's a good idea.
Fucking loves me. They don't know me. They're, for whatever reason,
this could also
they're
get
just
you a
gonna
restraining
relate.
order real fast, but I think it's a good framework.
There's a weird part to it. So you need a presence to understand. You need an awareness to make sure. There's definitely weird levels to that. And if you haven't watched, you do not want a stalker. Go back and watch episode 3 for how serious it can be. And Sammy comes, and I'm just like, hey, yo, Sammy, good to see you again, brother. He's like, yo, what's up, man? So it wasn't the whole Jakeem Noah, like, you know, but it still kept a conversation where there wouldn't be any conversation. Right. There was.
Oh, cool.
I've continued to do that. And as I got older and I could start growing a little scruff, I could go into some networking events and people would treat me a little more serious, right? I started learning in college that if I dressed a certain way, I had a collared shirt, and I would try to wear a blazer often, or like a sweater, I would try to go to every networking event. And slowly, by trying to dress well, making sure your dress shoes match the exact tone and hue of your leather belt, right? Like little details that maybe someone will care about, but maybe not. I had worked retail for 4 years.
You're Spanish at heart. I'm going to let you know. My mom would love it.
I get that all the time door knocking. They're like, Espanol? I'm like, no, Espanol. It took 4 years.
No hate.
Got kicked out of the class. Still finished. I convinced the principal at that point, who is a godsend. She understood me more than anyone else. But went in after getting kicked out.
Like, are there for you when like no one
they
else
see something in you that you don't. And I can easily name the names from Miss Hanesh in 3rd and 4th grade to Mr. Ibarra in junior high, and then in high school there were a variety, but I would say Mr. Kinsinger was like he was one that just got me, and there's probably more. But anyway, I was 3.5 years in, and I had realized that the only way to not take Spanish in college, which was like the scariest thing in my life, right? That means I'd have to actually learn it, right? And this is the high school version of me, like yourself. I was looking, how can I get in trouble? How can I do the least amount of work? And like, if it meant I had to study 3 hours to pass this test, and I got good grades, so I don't want to say anything. I turned my shit on time. That's why I got through high school and business school. I got kicked out of this class, and I convinced the principal that I knew I needed it for college, and that high school was really setting me up for college, right? And then I wanted to make sure I was the best reflection for the West Branch High School, right? In our town of 5,000 people, less than. We're on the grow. I think we're in the green. And I ended up Skyping. So every day when the whole class went to Spanish class with Miss Moreno, I went to the principal's office where everyone walked by and the window and blinds were wide open. And I'm sitting there on a computer watching Spanish class from literally one wall away. So I was disrupting the room, and I was the class clown. I was this, I was that. I wonder where my life would be if I would have been prescribed medication at a younger age.
That's an interesting one.
Right? Like, I'm glad I didn't. Like, I don't regret anything in life. I got some legal trouble, too, like, throughout life. Like, I know it made me me.
What kind of legal trouble?
I had some trouble in college. I don't necessarily want to dive into it right now.
You're good.
There were a handful, right? There's the typical public intox. There was an OW early on, and then luckily I had learned.
What's an OW?
My learning lesson, operating while intoxicated, so it's not alcohol related.
Interesting.
Yeah. The state of Iowa is the second most strict state in the country when it comes to cannabis. And there's a whole story that goes on behind that,
no.
right? From the previous governor, the longest running governor in U.S. history. Well, at one point when he went for his second campaign, I guess his son got in trouble for cannabis, right? But the state of, he wanted to really prove a point to make sure he could win. Yeah. And whatever, he made it really strict. Well, it's just stayed there, right? So I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like still like a Schedule I drug. Like it's wild for what that is. And then the craziest thing is moving out here to Southern California. You openly, and this went through my mind when you were describing this. Like if I had friends and family that might watch this episode that are for sure, right? They love to support your story and your upbringing. I love how authentic you are, and I understand it because I've lived in San Diego and Southern California now for 2.5 years. Oscar, the magic video man, you've grown up here, right? That no one like flinches at that. Like I understand that. If I grew up here, I'm sure my upbringing would probably be similar.
Yeah.
That's the wild take, man. That is the wild take. But that was the trouble, and it made me who I am. It woke me up because it wasn't the trouble. It was the embarrassment, one, really to my dad and to my family. Secondly, it was the amount of time that you have to go through for those classes, meeting with the attorney, like doing all this, and that was the point. The money kind of sucked, but it was like the time, just 2 times a week you had to go to this class. And it was like you're going to college still, like going. That's what opened my eyes to like, Yeah,
that sucked for me too. And I think, like, to your point earlier, family and whatnot, I hope we reload the drinks here in a minute. Perspective, fuck other people's perspectives, right? Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You ready? Boom, let's get Lady McTitty in the city. So, like, I think to you, what you're saying, right, perspective?
Yeah.
Fuck other people's perspectives, right? Like, love your perspective and make, like, an amazing perspective, right? So I think to those that know, they know, and those who don't know, they don't know. Like, if someone passes judgment on you in their mind, ooh, hurt me. You know, like it did nothing to me. Like your judgment does fucking nothing to my humanity, right? Like how you view me does nothing to my humanity. But the people that I have in my circle of perspective, like let us be what we are and like allow us to be, right? As long as you're good, forthright, and have a good principle set of how you walk the planet, what you want to do, and leave a signature on the planet, let that be you, right? Yep. But there's enough of a like divisive mentality in our country or in our humanity that makes us like peg people like, oh, this bad, this good. Like, you don't know that. Like, my favorite story or parable, I did a lot of work with, like Chinese investors. One of them was the gentleman, the first billionaire I ever met was the guy doing the Silk Road initiative, right? So, like, the
That's
belt.
where I own my first Bitcoin.
Really?
Oh, wait. Not the website.
No, the Silk Road? No. What's the website?
All right.
You know something else? Okay.
So okay, long story short.
Yeah. Hit me with it.
Yeah. That's an interesting. When I have Oscar laughing, like he's like, okay, let's see if he goes. Let's just put it that there used to be an Amazon before Amazon was around.
Whoa.
That allowed you to buy anything you wanted in this world. It was the black market version of Amazon.
Whoa.
This is when people own Bitcoin and why Bitcoin was initially created. Like I own, between some friends and I mean, there was like, you would buy a Bitcoin and be $100 today, and then the next day it'd be like $1,100, and then the next day you lost all your money, and then the next day it was $2,000. It was just wild. And then just to think like, what if you just sat on a few right now? If you own 0.28%, so 28% of a single Bitcoin, which is currently at like 52K presently, if you own 28% or more, you are in the top 1% of crypto earners when this boom happens. I didn't know this. This is coming from mathematicians. Like the way, however they're breaking it down, for the limited amount that mining can still possess, there's something like, 70%, if not more, have already been mined. There's a finite amount. And that alone fascinates me.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Currency is such an interesting thing, right? Like, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of salary, there was, like, salarium, like, Greek soldiers getting salt, and that was, like, the biggest, most coveted thing over gold and silver. So salary, the word salary comes from salarium.
Why the hell would you want salt?
You would preserve meat. So you use salt to preserve meat so your meat would last longer. So salarium was your salary, and that was, like, a big deal, right?
Kept your family fed. Yeah.
Exactly right. So the soldiers got, like, the best of the best. But yeah, prior to that, right, the perspective, we were on something that was a good rundown. Perspective, you run down perspective, your humanity, if you have a certain perspective. Oh, my favorite parable, bro. So met first billionaire, This guy does a Silk Road, right? China. He's buying like a vineyard just for the fun kicks and giggles of it because he's got to be here for 6 months for like a visa or whatever, right? The parable is the gentleman walks, the old Asian farmer, right, in China. I love the Chinese people, by the way. I think the Chinese culture is a phenomenal culture. The Chinese farmer has his son come back. His son gets there, and everyone's like, "Oh, rejoice! Your son is back. How great!" Right? And he's like, "Maybe," right? And then the next step comes in, and the next day he's plowing the field, and the ox, the plow pulls too hard, and he breaks his leg. And I was like, "Oh, what misfortune! How horrible! This is tragic. Your son." And the farmer goes, "Maybe," right? And then the next day they're drafting youth to the war, so they grab the oldest child of every household to go to the war. Since he had a broken leg, he couldn't go, and the way they check you is they shift your leg to see if it's broken. So screams. And imagine, I know, bro, I've broken like 13 bones. I can't even imagine that shit. Fuck that. My femur was horrible. So like the guy, they go, "Oh my gosh, your son won't go to war to die. What great luck." Maybe. So I think the context of like what we say good or bad in any given moment is what we give it, right? Like we give it that power, right? But we don't know what the outcome is going to be until X amount of time passes, right? So for us to get caught up or hung up on like these stupid little moments is like perspective. Let it be what it is right now. We don't know, like prohibition in the 20s to what it is now. Like everyone drinks. Like even your parents and family are like, "Let's have a glass of wine." So step outside of that. What you said earlier, perspective, which I think is so beautiful. Like different perspectives. The more perspectives you can see the world from, the much happier you'll be and understand more people and have so much more peace.
So much easier to be happy.
Yeah,
because you just get it. Like, whoa, they're that person that I used to probably point out driving by. Like, damn, what the fuck? Like I had to make a comment, right? Yeah. That was the environment I grew up in. That just happened. Yeah. And then when you start experiencing enough, and you go live in the other side of the world or something for a year, everything shifts, and you're like, damn, that person is just trying to live their happiest life, like chasing happiness. Like they're trying to provide for their family, themselves, whatever.
Couldn't agree more.
It's that simple.
I could agree more. Yeah, so like they get perspective. Like they're sapient. We're all fucking trying to figure it out, right? No one has the answer. Like a lot of us might suppose to have the answer, but I'm a big believer in like questions are beautiful because questions bring us to answers, and even those that are answered can one day be debunked and keep growing those answers, right? And like I love that. So perspective to me is like one of the most beautiful things we can do. Iowa, for example, right? Like compared to California, very different, right? Or like let's say the Middle East. To hear. I was a great Christian when I was a Christian. 7 years of youth group leader. I thumped the Bible. I was like, yes, scripture, everything. I give it to God. Like, oh, you did great. Not me. It's God. Like everything was given to God, right? Like I was like I had long hair. Like I remember a story one time I was I was walking down a parking lot, right? And the lady stops me on Sunday, right? Because I'm a youth group leader. And like, it's like, oh, the young guy that's so Christian like that or whatever. And I'm walking down and reading a book. And the mom goes, Mom, look at Jesus. Because I had no sandals on. I had shants on, like barefoot, walking across a black a parking lot with a book in my hand, long hair, right, and a V-neck. I thought it was so cool. And I get to like the church room, and she goes, "He tells me you're Jesus." I'm like, "No, that's Reef." And why? Tell me why in God's green earth you would walk back up the parking lot pushing a cross, because we had a cross on wheels, and I'm pushing across the parking lot. And the kid's shook. He's like, oh, Mom, it is Jesus, And I'm like, I'm dying at this story.
Today's the day.
I know, it's happening.
Get me in the church. Give me in Sunday school.
And I think to myself, like, perspective is such an interesting thing, because here we hold that to be such a truth, right? But then you see other parts of the world, and I wonder, how good of a Muslim would I have been, being raised in like the Middle East, or how good of a Buddhist would I have been in like some parts of Tibet or China, like, or in India, right? Or how good of a Hindu would I have been? Like, it's interesting what perspective is according to the community, or like you said earlier, the people that you have in your surrounding circle that you hold to be true, that you create your reality through. Yeah. So there's so many different perspectives on this planet. The more you step out of your own perspective and try to view the world through so many other perspectives, you have a great understanding of, we're all just trying to figure it out. No one fucking knows. Economy, proof of concept.
No
right?
one knows. Like we're sitting here just having, these are normal conversations.
You and I,
we don't know shit. We just experience the things we can talk about and what our current beliefs are and what we think we're headed towards, right? And like what maybe mentors and role models. So by no means have we made it. And I think we both define that by far. We're nowhere close. Nowhere close.
Yeah.
We have probably made it a few steps further than most people, but
correct.
This is for the people out there that are like, damn, I think I might be able to start something one day. But it's like, damn, what if I started that business? Yeah, right?
Do it now.
And that's the commonality is like the majority of people in our friend group all of us, right, are like, doesn't matter what direction, what industry you're killing it in. It's just bringing them together. Good people want to support each other.
100%.
So what's crazy is by starting a business, you also almost like introduce higher quality people to your life. Now, I don't want to disrespect anyone. I don't think that's a bad reason, but you have a reason to conversate with people. You have something more than your own personal story.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, right?
Different
That's something I've
purposes.
known.
Different purposes, right? Like I think, like if I were to chalk it up, I'd say like, what is your purpose in your drive? Someone's purpose is baseball, wife, church. Easy, farm, live life, right? And then like other people's purposes are different. When you align yourself with tribes, right? Because like Sapiens, we are tribes. You surround yourself with a tribe, you're able to then pursue that purpose. And like your tribe defines you, right? So the level of your tribe really makes you. So like you said earlier, I know, I walked this fine line because people are like, Reef, you're a elitist. And it's like, no, fuck you. I just want to hang out with higher level people because like they're making changes on the planet. Other people don't want to take that responsibility. You think it's easy waking up at 4 a.m. every day? You think it's easy getting into the gym like the way you do? You think it's easy carrying the weight of the things that we have to carry? It's not. It's a responsibility that you put on your shoulders because you want to take that responsibility. You want to bear the weight. Like heavy is the crown, right? Like it is just something that you want to wear as a king that you are. I think you're a fucking king, right? Like to wear that is like not easy, but you do it because you want to be around that. Choose your tribes well and like create. Why not run with it? And if you want to change your reality, change your fucking tribe. So many people that get stuck in, I've been trying to do this for 5 years. I've been trying to get out of this for like 10 years. I've been trying to change your fucking reality.
It's all excuses, right? Like if we come
who's
back,
in charge of your shit? No
successful people take full ownership, right?
100%.
Regardless.
100%.
If someone fucked up on the team, like
100%.
I'm still going to. It's my fault.
Me.
I didn't communicate well enough how important this was, and that we should probably do it this way. And it's solely me. But by doing that and authentically living it, it's a crazy dichotomy that comes within your teams and your crew and your like.
Your
They
reality.
treat you differently, and your friends do too. When it's like you stop getting rid of excuses, and even those times that it does creep up and you do make one, awareness kicks in right away, and they're like, "Why does that feel so weird coming off my tongue?" And then you know, like friends like you and me, we'll call each other out, like, "Hey, rewind, restate that sentence." Right?
Oh man, I remember a time that I did something and it was silly with the videographer, and you caught me. Like you were like, "Hey, Reef," and you had a conversation with me that most people wouldn't. Right? Like that was to me that was a moment that I fell in love with your humanity. I was like, this man I know is looking out for my better interest and the better interest of the community around him, and he puts truth and respect and love first, not fake love, which is you know what, that guy's an idiot. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, fuck him. You know, like because so many people want to like they think that just siding by you makes them a good friend. It's like no, like you giving me truth and value is the fastest way to friendship, right? Like that's the fastest way you can build my reality. Is like be honest, authentic with me, and tell me where I'm fucking up. I want to know where I'm fucking up. Like I think most people are very like you said, like they make excuses. We live in that reality, right? Of like,
it's easy.
It's easy, but when you look at any situation that happens, if you're able, a mentor once told me, you point the finger outward at somebody, 3 fingers point back at you.
Yeah.
You're 1 finger out. Ask yourself 3 times first why you're so comfortable with that. You don't know the color blah, 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 unless you've seen the color blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Blue, you know red because you've seen them. If you see something in somebody else, selfishness, ego, whatever, you know it because you've seen it in you. So you can call that out very easily, right? Yeah. It's a projection one way or another of what you know within you. Mind blown? Yeah, pick up the fucking bits off the brain. So like, off the window, right? I got a squeegee. So I think with that being said, like our projections and the things that I know, I'm sorry for time.
No. I love it. No, I knew this was going to happen. I'm just looking. I'm trying to gauge how many more questions I can squeeze in because I really want wild card to hit.
Go straight to the wild card at some point. Like I have no problem going to the wild card, or if we just sit here for 3.5 hours and make it a Joe Rogan podcast.
As soon as we
bring out the weed,
a certain amount of viewers. As soon as we bring in a certain amount of viewers, I mean, I'm down to test everything, right? Like that's really what we're trying to do in these first 10 episodes, first 20.
Sure.
The comments and engagement we're getting is just wild. Like the feedback, people are longing for this in a way that I don't know, right? So like the feedback helps because it's hitting different people in different ways, right? The last podcast having 10 to 15 plus people, a lot of them are people that I don't traditionally talk to on a regular basis. They're like, I'm crying. Like I cried throughout this. I immediately respond like all these crying, laughing faces. And then I get a few calls today, and it's like, no, like I resonated with that story like no other.
Wow.
And it's crazy because in the moment, what I didn't understand looking into a podcast, and maybe other people don't feel it, it's like when we're having this conversation, it is pretty damn close to flow if it's not flow, right? And the second we end it, like I have no idea like where we're at within time. The conversation just goes, and at the end of the conversation, I have no idea what the hell we talked about. Right? That's beautiful.
That's been kind of hard because I want to like. There's so many. Here's the thing about you and I. There's so many tangents that we could run off from every topic that we talked about. Could have been an hour-long conversation. It's so hard to not go over in abundance and like give and go. And yeah, I love. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yes. So
sorry, brother.
Just to let you know, there's going to be 3 options moving forward, and I'm glad. Episode 4, Reef, you get to experience the first one.
Cool.
There's 3 topics that we get to choose from. You choose as the guest.
All right.
And we will start breaking it down.
All right.
Now, the 3 that you get,
all right.
the 3 options you have to just explain your viewpoint on them or the topic, the 3 are spirituality, deep space or astronomy, or Elon Musk.
Can we talk about all 3?
I purposely do. You have to pick one. We're gonna do one.
What
and how do we get it to like? Yeah. I know. Because there's future episodes. That's exactly what happened. Every guest immediately we finish, and it's like, all right, when are we doing? We're filming the next one next week. Yeah. Always. Spirituality, deep space, Elon Musk. Reef, you have 5 seconds. 5, 4.
Can I ask you a counter question? Is that okay?
Quick.
Yeah. Okay. So
2.
in like, because it's up between like it's up between space, right?
So it's space
and
It's
spirituality.
space. You
right?
said space first.
But I want to go between the 2. That's a very good point. But well done, well played, sir. Cheeky, pinky up. He don't fucking knows. He's like, gotcha. You said the first one, top of mind. That's you are. That was great psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, you just watched an artist in flow. Yeah. Okay.
Gosh.
The reason why I say it is because like in spirituality, I think we go down the tangent of like what makes our society as a whole, but like the dangers of society, because spirituality can be a beautiful but also very dangerous thing. But a space has much more beauty to it, and I think a better expansion. So let's go down space. I think you're correct. You are 100% correct, right? And we can talk about spirituality another day. We could have an hour on that because I have very strong.
What is the most interesting thing that you've learned about space in the last year? Like, just what comes to mind in the sense of like, we know nothing, right? So it's deep ocean, right? We know, I think the statistics, something like 95% of deep ocean on Earth, our own fucking rock. We know nothing about. We don't have the technology to measure it yet.
100%.
We don't know. And then there's deep space. Very similar story. We don't know like 99.9% of space, this infinite space that continues to grow.
As we know.
And we're a young galaxy. Oh yeah, I mean we'll play that. But why the hell did you? Where do you think your passion for space and just this interest, this curiosity started?
So we'll end it with the spirituality, right? Off the back end of spirituality, I left spirituality. I left God. I left church. I left all the booga booga. I left all of that, right? Because to me, it just didn't make. So like you can't actually staple it, right? Like if you take away the main piece, which is Yahweh, Jesus, God, it all falls apart. The structure falls apart. The same thing with Muslims. Or go for it.
No, just a little closer to the mic.
So yeah, if you pull away like any of these like structures, like it all falls apart, right, on itself. So it doesn't make sense. You can't. Like the beauty of humanity is if you got rid of math books and science and burn them all, and you burn all the Bibles, in 1,000 years, math and science would come back the same. Gods would be very different. Deities would be different because they're up to interpretation or what we do as a society, right? So to get to space, I think I look back at our Sapien experience of 65, 70,000 years ago, right, to where we are now. If you look at the Sapien experience, it's been a fucking crazy ride. For 65 to 70,000 years of what is the span of the planet Earth, whoa, which is a cognitive space of sapiens, right? Being cognitive has been 65 to 70,000 years, where cup was named, right?
Yeah.
Wood was named at one point, right? To wwhere we are now, like a hockey stick in evolution. Sapiens is one of my favorite books, so let's just start with that, right? Sapiens
definitely one that everyone needs to read.
Please, if you read Sapiens, this is just anybody who watches this. Read Sapiens. I will treat you to dinner, and we'll talk about the book. I do that with many people, right? I think it's a phenomenal book to really look at ourselves.
I'll reread it.
I know. Let's go. Very objective view of reality, right? So you look at the Sapien experience. Evolution happens whether we like it or not, right? It just is happening.
And the universe only transforms.
That's it.
It's always moving.
Growing.
Life is always moving.
Nonstop.
Like when you just realize that, it's never going to stay the same.
You move.
You either get excited or you get scared, and I choose excitement.
100%, because you get to choose that, right?
I choose.
Yes.
That's it. We choose.
Yes, choices of life and choices of your mind and wherever you go, right? So I see like the print, chisel and stone to papyrus paper. There's a generation that was like, papyrus paper will never take off. I've chiseled in stone since the eons of eons. I could never. We've 10 generations of chisel. You know, when was the last time you fucking chiseled a tablet? It doesn't happen, right? Yeah. Or like papyrus paper. Like then you go into the printing press and the written hand. No, the printing press will never take off. The written hand, there's so much love and feeling. When was the last time you read a fucking book that wasn't written by your own hand, that wasn't a diary or a note that you wrote down? It just doesn't happen, right?
If ever. I don't know if I've ever.
If you go to San Diego, the top floor in the library, they have books of the 1800s, 1600s, 2,000 years ago. Beautiful. We'll go sometime. We'll get coffee.
Let's do it.
Down the street, and it's these books are like masterpieces, right? Like they're the tiniest books. They're also like handwritten books. Beautiful. There's kind of a beauty to that, right? However,
not practical.
For what data is, data keeps growing. Data is really the real God. If you want to give me a God, I'd say data and knowledge and truth are the gods of our reality, right? Like that is a true God, because we all bow down to data in one way or another, whether we want to admit it or not. So like you have now the printing press to the written hand, printing press takes off, right? Typewriter to the computer, so on and so forth. We literally articulated and created a language called mathematics 500, 600 years ago, right? Maybe 5,000 if you look at the Chinese people in different ways, right? Like to understand physics and how to articulate a steel fucking bird that at one time for the Greeks was a god and could only be a deity to now transport people like Airbuses across the world. We created a fucking language to create a device to simplify our reality. That's the beauty of humanity to me. Like, fuck a god, fuck a deity. Like, I'll say it right now. Fuck your God. Like, I say it very boldly, right? Because I'm very much a person that's almost against the religious circle. And we can have another conversation around that. Because I think it's a very defeatist world.
I see where you're coming from, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because you see a oneness amongst all, right?
100%.
And that's where I'm at. So I just want to clarify in the sense, because I have family and some friends that
very religious.
Yes.
There's a beauty of
religion. I grew
religion.
up that way.
Yes.
Through college
As did I.
and self-development and self-education, I completely understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. I see the reasoning, and I see that there is potentially something bigger.
Yeah.
I lean that direction. I think there is something bigger, and there's one place we all came from, and there's one place that we all go back to at one point, and it feels like home.
Fair.
And we go back to home.
Fair.
And it's a beautiful place.
Fair.
Right?
Fair. Whatever that is.
Just to clarify.
And I want to rectify that statement, right? Because I know that might ruffle feathers. I don't give a fuck about your feathers. First off. Second off, like if you really look at reality, there's been deities, and I'll shake your shit right now. Like, you can tell me all you want. There's been deities throughout our entire history, right? Like, we look at Zeus and we go, oh, that's a myth, right? Like, I wonder what 1,000 years from now, what a generation is going to go, man, those guys are so silly. Those fucking sapiens thought that there was a guy in the sky with fucking white hair that looked over everything. They called him daddy. Like, fucking crazy, right? Or like they saw a guy that like had a sword, Allah, and they're like, oh, look at Allah. Like, I wonder how we look at 1,000 year ago generations and go, huh, how interesting. They thought that there was a God for flight. What 1,000 years from now a generation is going to say about us and go, huh, how interesting. They thought that there was a God for this. So I look at the world in like 1,000 year scope forward and 1,000 year scope back. Sorry, like that's just me, right?
I'm looking at how the hell are we on spirituality, deep space, or Elon?
Sorry. Like, because I kind of
bring it full circle.
Yeah, sorry. So
blow my mind and bridge the gap to one of those three.
Okay, so I will. So I'll bridge it from like what is religiosity down to like the sapien experience, right? So like religiosity is divisive by nature, right? So what you're doing, and I love religions. I think religions are some of the most beautiful things on this planet. Why? Like if you look at government systems, right? Kings have been overthrown for eons, right? Dynasties have been overthrown. A human being in rule must be killed and removed. Like, that's just it. Like, political powers, they will sway wherever we're going now, maybe the China economy, right? A more eco-economy, wherever that is, U.S., like, losing its power, whatever. Like, shifts of power of humankind will shift. Kings in villages, overthrown, burned, pillaged, moved on. Police. We hate police today, sadly. I love you, police officers. You do such a great job. Like, it's just a job. Like, you choose it, right, to protect us, but we demonize them because of a few bad apples. Taxation is still something hated. We're like, the mass exodus. There's 1% of California left, and it's 8% of the total taxable income. We hate taxes. Like, we hate these structures and systems. Religion is beautiful because it created a perfect marketing pathway. You cannot overthrow a king that you cannot see, touch, or kill. You cannot hate each other or you're policing people because you use it as accountability within your own tribe. You cannot hate a taxing that's said to give off the top a tithe, 10%, which tithing came from, gleaning, which came from a farm. When you had a farm, you would give a portion of your parcel or 10% of your farm for travelers that were coming by that needed food from one place to another. So all these like things that we've created, these structures, right, are really a beautiful marketing plan for us as a tribe. Why? Let's go a little bit deeper. Sapiens. You cannot grow, and the bonobo and the chimpanzee are the closest to us by one DNA, right? The bonobo and the chimpanzee, if you look at them, they cannot grow tribes bigger than 150 to 300. They split. Big data. Facebook. You can't have more than 150 to 300 friends that you communicate in a given season or era. It's beautiful to watch big data answer some of these questions that we now can start correlating, making plot points to say, okay, there's something going on. So let's say now we have a tribe that we want to build, right? Or a village over 300 people, 1,000, whatever, what have you. How do you create a tribe under one flagship? You create a perfect government. Catholicism is the biggest government on the fucking planet. They have archbishops, 270, right? They have a pope, a grand pope. They have one of the biggest riches that you don't even know what the riches are, like their wealth metric, right? A Vatican. The Vatican alone has an art locker that you don't even know what's going on there. Gold riches, whatever, what have you. They ran the world. They dictated kings. This is a beautiful government that was created. So you look at these systems, right, and you say, okay, I understand the psychology now behind it. How beautiful. If we did not have religion, we would not be here today because we would have killed each other off. It created a rubric of psychology before psychology was psychology. But I ask this question to most people. If you have a brand new fucking Panasonic today, right, and you grab a book or a manual from a 1950s Panasonic or Toshiba, would you be able to install your TV today? Fuck no. You cannot use an antiquated fucking manual for the times of today. You must evolve with the times and keep growing. So I see space as the next beauty of our reality. Why am I so passionate? I wake up understanding and loving humanity. I'm not looking at doing good deeds here because it gives me a little fucking penthouse in the sky, and then one day I'll be able to live on a cloud, and I'll be able to live with all the white and the gold that I want, right? Clouds, puffy. Fuck all that. I live because I know that you want a selfless, like a very selfless, non-selfish, like, driven by me, I have to do good because I'm going to have security later. You want selfless? I understand that my time here is limited. I have a certain expiration. What happens after? Unknown. So there, ergo, can't assume, can't suppose or live for something that I don't know. However, I will use the data that I do know. I know that I'm here for X amount of time and then my body ceases to exist. Whether it does go somewhere else, whatever have you, like that is literally insignificant. What it is the time now. I have an opportunity to either make this world a better place for my future generation and offspring, to create a better reality for us and keep the sapien experience going and being better so that we can answer some of these questions that we don't have answers for, which are so beautiful, or I could choose to make it a shit place. Religion scares me because it supposes answers and proposes answers to things that we don't know yet. And then we take that as a truth. Very dangerous fallacy to live by. That is a dangerous reality to live by.
Damn.
Is that heavy? Sorry.
No, I love this shit.
I love you.
Just like open my mind. Yeah. Just give me viewpoints, right? Like
that's a different perspective.
Quality, exactly. I think quality leaders in this world, regardless of form, shape, sex, color, whatever, they take in any input, any information, right?
Correct.
Now, the trick is to not let that necessarily affect you, or to not have an emotional response from it. To take it in as this neutral information, right? It's not gonna force me to make an interaction. And that brings up a really good point, man. And
data. It's all data.
It is.
Like, it's data and how you articulate that data.
Yep.
If I want to say what would create why I'm doing business, I one day want to create a new community of Sunday morning people that read a different book a week rather than the same fucking book a week, hoping to get a different message. If you read Grow Rich, right?
Think and Grow Rich, yeah.
Think and Grow Rich at 18, you read it again today, of course you would take different contexts. You have a completely different understanding of it. And you can manipulate that however you want. However, to read a different book and expand your mind, perspectives. A book is beautiful because it's a lifetime pursuit of somebody in a 200-page synopsis. What a fucking gift.
Living
from
or
an author.
dead, you can dive into the smartest people.
Oh,
of all time.
Oh, I
Don't
love
get me
that.
started on
Oh my
biographies.
God,
You
I
can
love that.
understand living or dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Living or
Elon
dead,
is
you can
actually
dive
one that
into-
talked about that. I butchered the quote, but that's like what Elon talked about at a young age, right? When he came from South Africa.
He read phenomenal.
Went to
like,
his aunt and
ferocious
uncles
stuff.
in Canada to hopefully trickle down to the U.S. because that's where he knew shit would happen.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is the land of opportunity.
I
and
love his book.
that is another reason. Goddamn. Like, regardless of where you're watching this, the fact that you are watching this or listening to this probably means you're in a country that has some opportunity. If you have internet, let alone, you have access to this. Our businesses are both fully remote, and we have teams that are growing. Your company's on track to do 6 million plus this year in rev, right? Like, we're talking, we aren't where we know we're gonna be, but we are headed and we're in that direction with full momentum.
May I? Yeah? I think knowledge is our true God. Knowledge, data, understanding, right? Let's talk about that for a moment, if I may, right?
Yeah.
If you look at knowledge, right, what is like wisdom, when you had religious circles, most people couldn't read. They had a Bible per village, right? And most people couldn't read it. It was the deists or whatever they were that would come by, right? The bishops that would share, a priest that would talk to them. And they like the reason why you got with a rabbi was because a rabbi, by the age of 12 or 13, you had to know the entire Jewish book and be able to regurgitate it, because they would go out and give knowledge. So the ignorant, right, is bliss, again, to the person in Iowa or like South Dakota or whatever, figuring out farms, so on and so forth.
Yep.
Like, here's my living. Like, data is so important that the people that understood and could read would share that data, and they were known as gods. Now we're living in an economy where data is more reliable. You can talk to somebody across the country, across the planet. My friend in India, Zora, I love you, brother. Like, we talk, and I love his perspective because it's such a different world in reality. What Elon Musk is doing with like putting satellites out in space, right, and Starlink, he's giving data and knowledge to the multitudes. Imagine what our sapient experience will be when we all have the ability to take the same tools. A hammer is a fucking hammer. You can either use it to demolition or you can use it to construct. When you give the ability to even have and hold a fucking hammer to all people, what is the opportunity we can build a society? So I look at space. Thank you. You like that? Yeah? I look at space and I consider like what the future is of our reality, right? Like, we literally are a sapient species that is asking questions. Do not suppose, do not impose, and do not give me your hypothesis as a truth, but rather have a framework and a principality that you live by, that you say, okay, these are the 5 questions I ask myself to say if this is a journey to go down or not. These are the 5 questions I ask. And it has to be something that I can put into a greater humanity and actually have them try to disprove it. The beautiful thing about the scientific community is they put up a paper and they say, please disprove this. Because you disproving it does a better to our humanity. I want to be wrong. By being wrong, I am better, which is an entrepreneurial like must have. If by pain and being wrong, I grow more, right? W's and L's, wins and learns, never losses, right? Like, that is like the fucking reality of our humanity. Mathematics will be the first language that we share with the extraterrestrial life. Because if you look at any other language across the world, mathematics is universal, right? We all count, we all quantify, we all add 1 + 2, and you can derive a baseline language from mathematics. There's a universal language.
Yeah.
That to me is beauty. Science has created a language that transcends the sapient experience. Mathematics, which I think is fucking gorgeous. And that mathematics has created planes, technology, cell phones. It's created the ability for us to talk through wires and have it on digital platforms, screens that play out of reality, right? To the point to get out to space. To be able to explore other frontiers and expand our humanity is a beautiful gift. I live for the questions of tomorrow, not for the made-up answers, but rather, what questions haven't been answered yet, and how can we answer them? And who's in charge of that? Fucking athlete, fucking whatever. Like the gladiators of today, like, baseball, me hit. Soccer, me run. Like, I love them. I love these sports. I think they're great. They're fun, right? Like, what's the guy's name? Conor McGregor? Fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
However, when I look at our reality, my true heroes, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? The Japanese guy, what's his name? Something Caminado, the guy that talked about the 4 or 5 levels of the human existence. I'll get that later, but it'll come to me, hopefully. But these are the true heroes, right? The people that we really should be coveting and looking after and going, you are fucking truth, because you are looking at tomorrow and creating a better reality for us. You're the true heroes. Scientists are so underrated. Doctors are so underrated. Like, the real heroes of our humanity, like mathematicians, like SpaceX. Finally, Elon Musk made space sexy.
Yeah.
But that's our fucking beauty. Tomorrow we get to create a reality for our Sapiens.
He's creating solutions to problems that are 20 to 30 years plus in advance. That's so I've read his biography 5+ times.
I read it 3 times.
Oh my God. I was doing it in college when this thing dropped and people didn't know Elon, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to dive in now, but in a future episode, I want to break down watching the first Falcon 2 launch, and you saw it, or Falcon X launch. Like we talked about it. Yeah, I know.
I watched
I'll break
it
down.
Point
just your conversation reminds me because I want to be able to bring that excitement and passion to this.
Okay,
and
we'll do that another time.
No, I love this. I love this, and I want to bring this full circle because we started the conversation and why you're on this podcast. You are a very successful business owner, and you're a very high quality human being. Not just from what I would say, but a handful of people and anyone that knows you and would be in our mutual network. I just want to make sure we have some time. Can you explain how you serve your clients at We Assist? First off, what is We Assist, and how are you serving your clients at the highest level? And then what ways can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. We Assist is like, let me think about it. So We Assist, I think, is more of like a core root for me, right? To what is a social seller, if you will, right? Like someone that actually cares about humanity. For a long time, I like when I was raised, I worked Le Carré Tile during high school, right? From 3 to 5, 3 to 6. And since I did so well there in sales, they extended the hours to 9 o'clock. At like 14 or 15, 16, I was a manager of a tile place just because I love selling and talking to people, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, hey, let me build your house. Like very, very genuine. Like I want to help you. I genuinely love the experience of being there in the moment and saying, I get to impact what you'll look at for the next 20 to 30 years. Cool. Yeah. Some guy sees me and says, you need to do cars, and pulls me out of there and says, you need to sell cars. I get to find what the true meaning of reality is with car selling. I got top 3 salesmen in my car dealership for 3 months in a row at the youngest age, right? I think that record still holds. I'm not sure. I'd have to check, right? But that was something that I just got from people telling me, do this, do that. Also a story from then, I remember that there's a lot of drug movement in the car industry. Someone in an Applebee's, the back of the parking lot, some issue happened, whatever have you. Next week, that guy was no longer seen again. And one of the people that I had, I won't mention names, said, hey, Reef, just so you know, I was like, where's so on and so forth? Just so you know, you can pay a homeless guy to do just about anything for $1,000. Shook my reality. I was like, whoa, this is the humanity I was around, right? That tribe. If I'd have continued down that path, who knows what I'd have been. Some guy tried to sell a 350 Z2 that had a Porsche. You need to do mortgage. Got into mortgaging and right at the bubble, right? That story, the end of that story, very quick. Like got in one Friday, went home. Monday came back. Doors were closed. There's your check on tape. You walk through the office. Computers were ripped out, gone. Like there were these mortgage companies that were literally popping up and taking from these bigger loan companies that couldn't fulfill them because they had very regimented and strict guidelines that were just creating whatever they could to pass it through, right? The housing bubble blew up. Yeah. Like I did sales because it was just something that I did. And then I got into church and being a snowboard instructor, a surf instructor, and living a more of me life, right, along with working and going to school, and that was a very beautiful experience, right? But that whole entire journey took me to a place where I realized I can't sell just to sell, right? Like I don't want to sell just to sell. Like I hated it. I hated knowing the car dealership. The reason why I almost got fired was there was a old lady, and the old lady came up to us and she was like, "You remind me of my grandson." Sweetest fucking woman, right? And I knew that she was on a fixed income. So I went to the back desk and I was like, hey, she's on a fixed income. I know we could get this loan at like 320, right? Like, let's get it down as low as possible to her. Because I understood the numbers more. The more you know, the more like, right, whatever. They're like, oh, we're going to rape her. Back desk. And I thought, fuck, that's fucked, you know? Like, are you a salesman or you're a pussy? I was like, you are what you eat, bro. I'm a fucking pussy. I'm sorry. I can't do this. You know, like I got to step away from this. And they're like, okay, pull them off. And I got in trouble because I went back out there and I was like, hey, miss, just so you know you said I remind you of your grandson. I want to do good by you. I know you're on a fixed income. I know you're only making $1,500 a month and you still have to pay for your living expenses. And they're going to come out here with the number of 720, 730, right? I want to let you know that they can go as low as 320, 350. If you walk out of here at $400, it's a fair deal for both sides. That lit everybody up. Like, how fucking dare you? Like, what are you? Like, I'm not gonna, for what, $100 spiff or $200 spiff, I'm gonna fucking ruin this human being's like living opportunity.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. That wasn't me, right? So I could never really get behind products. We Assist is something that I created that actually helps humanity, right? I help people scale their businesses through outsourced professionals, right? I finally feel aligned with my humanity. I get to talk to people, pour into them, like share, hey, grow, what growth is. Like grow beyond the expansion of your brain, create a better tomorrow, build a better reality. You are in control. You are the writer of your own journal of life, right? Your script. Create this, right? I get to do that. Give them the opportunity to have a VA or a virtual assistant or an outsourced professional that they can help scale their business. And on the inverse, the U.S. Consumer gets somebody that actually cares about their business, right? Like you get a $15, $10 employee here, they don't care. It's gas money to them. But overseas, that's a career path. To them, it's 2, 5, 10, 15-year journey for them, right?
Supporting a whole family. Like legitimately, these are the jobs that anyone's fighting for. And they're proud to go home each day. Like, damn.
To understand the Filipino culture, if I may, yeah, the Filipino culture is something called the breadwinner, right? Which is like, I think if you really want to do business well, you have to really pour yourself into it and understand it intrinsically, right? The Filipino culture, there's something called the breadwinner, and the breadwinner is a person that pays for the mom, dad, father-in-law, mother-in-law, spouse, significant other, or the kids. It's a coveted position in the household. We give the opportunity and we give them a pay rate to be the breadwinner.
Yeah.
Earned, right? Plus like health insurance and a bunch of other stuff. So we give them an actual career path. In doing so, they give the opportunity for a U.S. client to have someone that's committed to their brand. As you as an entrepreneur and I as an entrepreneur, there's nothing better than having somebody that's diehard for your fucking business. Yeah. You know, they die and breathe like whatever it is, XYZ company, right? Like they're just like, I love XYZ company and I am diehard, like Kendall's class or Zach, right? Like they are all about it, right? To them, there's a longevity there that you can't pay for with the U.S. consumer sometimes, and they work extra hard and like as much as they can. So the U.S. consumer gets a person that's diehard for the brand and helps them scale and build, right? And then somebody on the overseas section, you change their life, right? And all that is an opportunity exchange. So I actually get to build a business around changing people's lives, and I fucking love it. Like, I've never been more in love with my fucking reality in life than I am right now. And the beauty is I created it. Like, I built it. With the people around me, I built a reality that says I will pour into people and help them have a better reality for tomorrow across the planet. And I hope I get to do that for a long time.
I love that. I love that, Reef. And this is the first guest that Uptown Creation and our team actually works with on a day-to-day basis.
Really?
And so we're lucky to not only, work with We Assist, but to experience yours, right? And coming from a digital marketing background, right, we've employed a handful of VAs in our time, right? From way back in the e-com days when we first started and selling Amazon FBA products to the Instagram days and throughout, right? The challenge with VAs and why I had a bad taste in my mouth for a long time was just a bad experience, right? I didn't know how to vet. I didn't know how to find the right person. I didn't know how to hire in general. I didn't really know, looking back, what I was actually looking for. Now, when you don't have good results. Now, working with you and getting to know you on a first, a friend basis, right? Yeah. I consider you a brother for life, but being able to do that,
likewise.
I saw what you were doing was vastly different, and it took out the aspects that I didn't like. I knew there were extremely smart people, in a lot of ways, smarter than the people that are around here, that are more dedicated to you, to your brand, and treating you like at a level that you're not even normally used to experiencing in the States. Like it feels like, damn, am I royalty? Yeah. Like the way they communicate and talk.
Such a humble group.
The coolest part is that they give so much value and they're there to learn and to grow. So I want to give some kudos. Thank you. Cause I know we're going to be bringing on many, many more in the future.
Yes.
And, for anyone that wants to connect with you, how can they find We Assist and how can they get in contact with you?
Can I edificate you for a moment?
Let's do it. We got to condense it. Let's go.
Okay, so you, right, Uptown Creation, I want to thank you for the brand that you are.
Thank you.
There have been very few people that have walked into our ecosystem that have been as giving as you are. Most people are takers. That you guys saw a need with one of our VAs that mentioned one time, this VA reached out to us crying because they were so touched by what you did as a company. They did not have a computer that was up to par. They had one. It worked, right? Functionality, whatever, what have you. You guys as Uptown Creation bought them a computer in the Philippines. You literally gave somebody a hammer at the highest fucking level in our digital economy to literally change the pathway of their entire future, their family's future, you name it. Like, that was you and your brand, like, impacted a Sapien in a way that will forever impact their future generations, their current generation, if they put in the work, right? But their entire reality. Like, that is a beauty and testament to what business can be and how we can change the future tomorrow. So I thank you humbly for that. You're an amazing human being.
Thank you, brother.
And your company's a beautiful brand.
And yeah, so grateful. None of it would happen without the rock star people around us, and I know you would say the exact same thing. So
I couldn't agree more.
I appreciate you, man. And how can people get in contact? Looking into the lens, like, what is the best way to get in contact with We Assist and yourself?
You can find my Grindr profile no, I'm just kidding. My Tinder. No. You can actually go on weassist.io, the website. We just paid $10,000 to create a brand new site. So that's in development right now. Pretty excited for it. It's my first time actually creating a website that's at a corporate level, at a very strong level, which was a very interesting journey for me. There's a lot of learning there, which is beautiful. Everything is learning, right? Instagram is great. If you want to reach out to me, 626-602-5086. You can text me, like, without a problem.
First guest to get a personal cell phone. Let's go.
Text me, right? Like, I love humanity.
And I know you help. Like, I purposely send a lot of people to you because I know you're going to show up in line with my values.
Thank you.
I wouldn't make introductions unless I was like, I know this person's going to represent me well.
I genuinely want to help people, right?
Yeah,
like, I genuinely want to see people have a better tomorrow than, like, our realities, our perspectives are very starkly different. And as Sapiens, we can literally help each other on this planet. That's a fucking little rock flying through space. Like, we literally get to help each other. And that's such a gift. And I think if more people had that lens of, hey, how can I impact the people around me? Our entire humanity would be a much better place. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, DM me, at Reef Colman for any handle, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. It's all the same. You reach out to me. I'm all about having genuine conversations. So I'll talk to everybody and anybody. Like, to me, time is a beautiful exchange. And as long as you're there to grow, learn, want to grow yourself and become a better human being, I'm all about pouring as much as I can. Because I know that that'll be able to better tomorrow for our entire Sapien experience.
Reef, my man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, you can get in contact with Reef. You can go to weassist.io and just at least look into exactly why Uptown Creation not only went with this, but has helped us tremendously. It has literally helped us to the point that we've cut costs to the point that we're hiring more full-timers now, and we're impacting lives and families, right? It's not anymore of like what it was in college, like, damn, we're creating something, working out of a dorm room. Like, damn, we have 50 plus, a team of 55 plus. And it's like there's family members that are depending on, a paycheck. Like, that's wild, right? You take a whole nother level of seriousness.
How do you feel about that?
So that is a perfect way to plant a seed and build some anticipation for the next time you're on, because I know our conversations. The next one, we're just going to set it for like 3 hours, and I know we'll probably go 4, right? Because I feel terrible that I want to try to bring it back, because I know our natural conversations, and I'm glad because they went exactly where I knew they would go. I knew it. But there is so much more depth, and we didn't even get into the weird aspects. I think we just touched the surface for anyone that thought that was a little weird. So anyway, thanks so much.
All right.
Now, you can also follow, and really the big thing is subscribe not only to the Uptown Creation YouTube channel. That's really the best way to make sure you're getting all of our free value-based content, whether it's educational or entertaining. We are teaching social sellers, high-quality humans, how to give back to the world and how to make money at the same time, doing it ethically, right? Doing it the right way without shortcuts. Now, every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there is a new video and podcast that drops on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts.
Cop it.
And that is there for you. Thank you so much. We will see you on the inside.